Yo, what's up? It's Driscoll. Today I want to show you how to make a Subtronics type drop. This is really inspired by his song Scream Saver, so without further ado, let's hear it. Alright, so I'm gonna start by showing you the intro. At the beginning I have this pluck sound from Serum playing this short melody. Alright, so nothing special in here. I'm just using the D sharp harmonic minor scale, and I'm also using the characteristic note of the harmonic minor scale, in this case the C, because it creates really good tension. I'm also using a lot of notes which are separated only by a semitone to create even more tension. But yeah, nothing special here. It's just like a cool little melody to play before the drop, and I think it fits well. And as a second layer, I'm using another Serum, and this one is kind of a old school synth sound. And it's playing the exact same notes. Alright, and now jumping into the basses. So this drop is composed of 4 elements. You got the sustain, which is leading the whole drop. You got the quarter note pattern. You got this really fast arp, and you got the subbass. So I'm gonna start by showing you how I created the sustain. This is really easy, to be honest. It sounds like this on its own. And then I got some variation. And then I'm going back to the first patch. I'm just using a macro to change the sound a little bit. And same thing on the second sound, just using a macro. So how do you make something like this using Serum? As you can see, there's 0 post-processing, only an EQ. Everything is done in Serum. I'm using a basic shape, a triangle wave, and it's being FM'd by another basic shapes. What is this? The saw wave. And I'm using a lot of sync to make it higher in tonality. And without the filter and without the effects, this is how it sounds. Then I added this comp filter. So we're adding a lot of low end with the comps filter here. And then the sound is really created using the hard clip distortion at 100% drive. And then just using the multiband compressor. And then with the macro on the FM, on the sync, and on the cutoff, you can get some really cool variation. And then for the second patch, this is the same thing, no post-processing, only this EQ. And I just changed the wavetable from a triangle to a square. The macro is moving the exact same settings, except from the sync. And you see you get some really cool long bass sounds. Then we got the quarter note pattern, which sounds like this on its own. And here's how it sounds without any effects and any post-processing. So I'm using a Monster 8 wavetable as the main bass, and this one is being FM'd by the saw wave, and I'm just adding a reverb filter. This modulation is on the FM on the level, and just a little bit on the cutoff. And then I'm using this hyperdimension at 7 unison voice. Detune is 100%, and the mix is going from 27 plus 17 using the LFO. The dimension size at 0 and the mix at 35%. Then I'm using the linear fold distortion with the modulation on the drive, and the mix is at 58%. Then I'm using a delay on 29 milliseconds. And then a multiband compressor to finish it off. And then for the effects, I'm just starting with an EQ, cutting out the low end. I'm adding a saturator, like always, 6.8 decibels. Soft clip is on, output is down. an OTT, and then a short 30 millisecond delay at the end. Just adding this extra metallic sound to the bass. So a sound like this is really useful when you have a sustain that's really mono, because that sound that I just explained is really wide because of the hyper, the 7 voices unison, and the detune. So this one in combination with the sustain that's mono, they really complement each other. Then as a background layer, I'm using the hyper bass that I already explained in one of my previous video. But yeah, just to recap, it's just 2 saw waves with 16 voices unison, and detune is 100%. I'm using a comms filter, and I'm modulating the coarse pitch of both oscillators. And then the characteristic of the drop is this ARP going really fast in the background. So this sound is really easy. Once again, I'm using the init wavetable, the saw wave, with the bend plus minus, just to tight it even more. A lot of tube distortion and compression, and then afterwards just some EQ and reverb and just a little bit of delay. So this ARP is just playing a D sharp minor chord. Really, that's all it is on the first half. And then on the second half, I'm also playing kind of a D sharp minor. I'm just not using the 5th. And then on the next section, I'm playing the same stuff as the first part. Only difference is that sometimes I put longer notes to create some different rhythm throughout the drop. I feel like it adds this really cool melodic elements. Also, in between each section, I'm using this growl that's kind of sounding like a YOI bass. I made it as if it were a YOI bass. And I'm using a lot of delay to let it flow into the next section. So the sound itself, without any effects and no processing, sounds like this. It's just a Monster 8 wavetable, and the real movement of this sound comes from the bandpass filter I'm using here. As you can see, I'm using a lot of resonance and the frequency knob, as well as the cutoff knob, to make them join together in the middle and create this vowel sound. Then in the effects, I'm using hyperdimension with the mix for the hyper at 0, size at 0 for the dimension, and the mix at 40%. And like I said, this is a YOI bass, so I'm using the downsample, and the drive is on 57%. So now we really got this YOI bass. Then I'm adding an OTT, a saturator, an EQ to boost a little bit the mids, a delay on 19 milliseconds, just to give it some more metallic sound, a reverb, and then a delay on quarter notes. And just to finish it off, I'm cutting the low end with an EQ here. And as the last layer, the sub bass, same thing. This one is really nothing crazy. So here's how it sounds without the effects. So I'm using the saw wave, the init wavetable, as well as the noise oscillator, and I'm using 100% tube distortion. And then with an EQ, I'm creating this huge notch in the middle. I'm lowering a little bit the high end and boosting a little bit the low end. And then following that, I have this OTT to boost the sound even more, a glue compressor, and just a final EQ to cut some of the high ends. And I think that's it, guys. This one was kind of quicker than usual, but I feel like this one was a really good one to showcase how to make a drop like this. So I hope you learned something. I hope you liked it. If you did, please leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel to not miss any of the future videos. This is Driscoll, and I'll see you guys in the next one.